The Western Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Aden encompassed millions of square miles of territory vital to the global economy. By 2017, international and regional naval efforts had successfully driven Somali piracy to its lowest recorded levels since 2006. Despite this operational success, representatives from 21 nations convened in Saudi Arabia to significantly expand their existing maritime security treaties. The resulting Jeddah Amendment to the Djibouti Code of Conduct required a high level of diplomatic consensus from diverse regional actors. These signatures established a permanent binding architecture for regional management, moving past temporary anti-piracy measures. The agreement formally expanded the regional mandate to address a wide matrix of illicit activities occurring across the high seas and territorial waters. This transition moved regional focus from an emergency military response to a systemic legal framework, redefining how these 21 nations police their waters. The code centers on a specific target: transnational organized crime in the maritime domain. This category includes illegal fishing, arms trafficking, narcotics smuggling, and maritime terrorism. The challenge is policing these millions of square miles without violating the sovereign territorial integrity of the individual coastal nations. International maritime law relies on rigid definitions based on location and intent to authorize any physical intervention by a naval force. To understand how an international naval coalition actually functions, one must examine the legal anatomy of the Jeddah Amendment, where physical action is derived directly from legal definitions. Article 1 of the amendment grounds all potential law enforcement actions in exact geographic locations. This model follows the geographic zones dictated by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. Article 1.2 defines armed robbery against ships as an act occurring within a state's internal waters, archipelagic waters, or territorial sea. Piracy, under Article 1.1, refers only to acts committed outside of state jurisdiction, typically on the high seas. Article 1 also requires that the act be committed for private ends, a distinction that separates criminal piracy from state actions. These strict geographic distinctions dictate which state's Navy or Coast Guard has the legal authority to interdict a specific vessel. Without this jurisdictional geometry, a neighboring state's attempt to stop a robbery closer to shore would be legally classified as a violation of sovereign borders. Article 1.3 establishes a framework for addressing crimes related to marine resources. Unauthorized fishing fleets pose a significant economic threat to coastal states in the Western Indian Ocean. Article 3 requires participating states to enact national legislation, ensuring these specific crimes can be prosecuted in their domestic courts. This article also requires every state to establish a National Maritime Security and Facilitation Committee to coordinate domestic policy. International maritime law functions only when individual nations build the domestic machinery required to process and try captured suspects on their own soil. These legal boundaries create an operational challenge, coordinating real-time interdictions across 21 sovereign jurisdictions. Article 11 provides the solution through a codified information sharing network. Each state designates a 24/7 national focal point, responsible for receiving and sending immediate alerts. The code designates 3 centralized information sharing centers in Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, and Sana'a. When a focal point detects a threat, that information is pushed directly to the central hubs. The hubs then disseminate this intelligence to the entire network, allowing for a coordinated law enforcement response. This architecture aims to eliminate jurisdictional blind spots, allowing separate navies to function as a unified law enforcement web. Tactical pursuits in the open water rely heavily on the strict legal definitions established at the diplomatic level years prior. Article 1 definitions determine if an intercepting ship has jurisdiction to intervene based on its coordinates. The physical operation is the tactical outcome of intelligence shared through the Article 11 network. Following an interdiction, evidence and suspects are handed over for domestic prosecution according to the mandates in Article 3. The achievement of the Jeddah Amendment lies in translating international treaties into immediate naval operations on the water. This law enforcement machinery supports the strategic objectives stated in the amendment's preamble, the blue economy. This objective protects vulnerable fisheries, secures offshore energy production, and ensures regional economic stability. Global commercial shipping relies on the safe passage through these vital choke points, protected by regional cooperation. The Code aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, specifically Goals 14 and 16, regarding oceanic conservation and accountable institutions. By integrating legal definitions with domestic mandates and a unified communications network, the Jeddah Amendment provides the operational structure for multinational oceanic governance.